Hello, Star Citizens, and welcome to That's Cap, our new series. New series alert, where we create our very own capital ship for every manufacturer. We will be starting with the ones that currently don't have capital ships, and then we'll get to the ones that do. But in this series, we simply start out with a concept idea in the hopes that people in the comments critique it and we can improve it, and hopefully it'll become something that we're all proud of. Maybe even something that CIG might take interest in. Remember, digital ships are not imaginary, they are imagine-necessary. This month's giveaway prize is going to be a Drake Golem. To enter our monthly contest, leave a comment on at least one video and like or dislike at least one video, and of course make sure you're subscribed. Winners have 2 weeks to claim their prize. Members collectively have a greater chance of winning just for being members. So if you're subscribed, consider hitting that join button, and if you're not subscribed, I appreciate you hitting that subscribe button. For the full giveaway details, make sure you visit our Billionaire Ninjas Discord or our social media at Ninjas Leap. Because this is our first video of this type, let's lay out how these will work. They will resemble the way that we do ship reviews in a lot of ways, but not all of the ways. We are building out a ship, so we need to suggest pricing, how big it should be, and a number of other things, since these are the things that we are critical about when we create our ship reviews. Once we have laid out what we think the ship should include, then we shall talk about what the ship should be able to do. We will also provide any variant possibilities near the end. However, I want to be clear. I am not an artist, and this ship does not exist. These are suggestions that we are making to CIG. These are our own opinions and not the opinions of Cloud Imperium Games, its subsidiaries, or any Star Citizen employee. I don't work for CIG. At least not at the filming of this video, but we'll see. We'll see in the future. You know, these videos might make me a little famous. Today, we capitalize the Anvil manufacturer. And the next capital is the Anvil Goliath. The pledge price for the Anvil Goliath should be $625 standalone, $515 war bond, and could be $500 at concept. Cost in-game could be around $50 million. After the second sale of the ship, that price would raise to $850 standalone, $740 war bond. This is a capital ship. That price increase would ensure that early adopters get a massive discount while not devaluing the ship for the long run. That means the very first sale, it's $500, and we make sure that people can get the ship at over $240 savings. And then for this, so that's the first sale. Then the second sale, we make sure people can still get at least $225 worth of savings. And then the third sale is when we get full pricing at $850 standalone, $740 war bond. So I think of this the way that the Carrack launched as an example. So the Carrack started at $350 at concept, then rose up to $400, then $500, and now the most recent and most consistent price as of the making of this video is $600. So I think that's the way most ships should enter the game. They should be woefully underpriced at concept to ensure that there's heavy adoption of the ship. And then as we go on, you know, it's kind of that early adopters price goes away slowly as you continue to resell the ship. So here is the tagline for the Anvil Goliath: catch the smoke. That's all we got. That's all we got so far. We will be making a part 2. We got that from one of our viewers on the stream, so shout out to them. We also had a name that we'll talk about later that we got from one of them. I end up going with the Anvil Goliath. That is our tagline. It'll be catch the smoke, the Anvil Goliath.
The Goliath bird-eating spider is nearly 1 foot wide.
For measurements, the Goliath should be a length of 200 meters, beam of 100 meters, height of 45 meters, and it is a size 6 capital ship. Its minimum crew is 6 and its maximum crew is 20. It can carry 650 SCU. The claim time for the Goliath should be 1 hour and 20 minutes. Expedited should be 20 minutes, and the expedited fee should be at about 50,000 credits. For speed, the Goliath should have a top SCM speed of 160, which would make it the fastest ship of its size. Its nav max speed should be at 950, which would also be the fastest of its class and size. When it comes to maneuverability, it should have below average maneuverability for its class and size, just to make sure it balances out that speed, because it does have that speed increase. We will talk about why it needs that speed a little bit later. For weapons, the Goliath should have one bespoke, and this is big here, one bespoke dual size 7 distortion repeater, as in it cannot be changed out. It is always a distortion repeater. Remote turret, all right? So that is a dual size 7 distortion repeater remote turret. It should have 4 dual size 5 remote turrets with distortion cannons, and 4 dual size 3 man turrets with distortion Gatlings, 10 size 6 torpedoes, 10 size 5 torpedoes, 24 size 4 missiles, and 24 size 3 missiles. We'll talk about why it has that loadout in just a second. The hull HP for the Goliath should be somewhere around the 890 jump, but below the Idris. So somewhere between the 890 jump and the Idris, which means it should be about average for its class and size. The shields on the Goliath should be bespoke, military grade B quadrant type shields. The HP should be above average for its class and size. And the ship parts we will talk about later. But first, let's talk about what the purpose of this ship is. So for special features and amenities, the biggest special feature is the quantum snare, EMP, and stealth combo. It would also have pretty much all of the amenities of a Polaris for the interior, except with a hangar large enough to fit 2 Anvil Legionnaires comfortably. This ship is meant to be the first ever capital ship focusing on electronic warfare. The idea is it pulls a ship out of quantum, it disables those ships, and it sends people to board those ships. It is not meant to be a simple gunship. But let's get back to those ship parts now that we know what the purpose of the ship is. For ship parts, the Goliath should have 1 capital radar, 4 medium computers, 2 capital power plants, 1 capital cooler, 1 capital shield generator, 2 fuel intakes, 1 fuel tank, a capital quantum drive, a capital jump module, and 1 quantum fuel tank. This ship would also come with a bespoke quantum snare, a bespoke EMP, and a hull-specific stealth bonus. We'll talk about why it gets that stealth bonus in just a little bit. For fuel and quantum fuel, it should be average fuel stores for a capital ship, and it should be about able to travel as far as any other military capital ship at that average level. For special features, I've already discussed those, but I just want to reiterate that it does have a quantum snare, EMP, and stealth combo. That is what makes this a unique ship. And also, before I continue, I want to shout out some of my members. My first ninjas, Arthur Vandelay, Survivor to Hero, and Ray, my Hokage, Dr. Forbin, Old Weave, ETL and Spades, my Jonin ninjas, Radium TX, Paling Tan, The Solid Exodus, Damon Danielson, Dark Wolf God, The Real Phil 64, and Rage 1, and of course, all of my other members from every level who are listed at the end of the video. As always, membership is never required, but always appreciated. You help make this YouTube dream even more possible, so thank you. Let's start with why I picked this stuff, right? So again, this would be the first ever capital ship focusing on electronic warfare. The idea is it pulls ships out of quantum, it disables those ships and sends people to board those ships. The name was chosen not because of David and Goliath, but because of the Goliath bird eater spider, which should be a picture up here for you. But it could also be called the Huntsman spider, but I think the Anvil Huntsman versus the Anvil Goliath, it was just kind of a call here. The Goliath bird eater spider is one of the largest spiders, so this being a capital ship, I thought Goliath bird eater fit a little bit more, especially considering the way the Goliath bird eater hunts. You can go look that up. It's actually really interesting. Anyway, all the parts of this ship would be stealth, and that is very interesting. And let me talk about why it is stealth, because this ship is an Anvil ship. And if you know Anvil, then you know that they can also do stealth. And I'll go a little bit deeper into that a little bit later. So all of the parts of this ship would be probably 50% stealth, as in the hull itself, not the parts. The hull would have a 50% reduction in all signatures. Kind of the same way that like the Mirai Razor EX, the Saber Raven, things like that, right? So the idea here is that it gets a massive signature reduction. So it's kind of like a spider in waiting, which is why I went with the spider name, right? Because it's kind of waiting, and then it grabs people out of quantum and then disables them, and now you're kind of stuck in its web while it sends its feelers out to attack you and take over your ship potentially. It has a modest amount of cargo on it so that you may not want to take over somebody's ship and keep their ship, but it will allow you to take some of their cargo off of their ship and put it on yours. And, you know, we could even, you know, make sure that it has a tractor beam on it to make sure that that's easy enough to do. That's part of it. The larger weapons and torpedoes should be locked into being disabling type weapons and projectiles to make sure this isn't just another typical gunboat or torpedo boat. We do not want this to simply be another overpowered capital ship that just destroys everything with its guns. Now, it should have PDCs, as all capitals should have, but the primary thing here is that most of the guns, if not all of the guns, are disabling weapons. I don't know if you could do all of the torpedoes and everything as disabling. I don't know how the balance would work with that, but the idea is that the majority of the weapons, the overwhelming majority of the weapons, should be meant to disable, not destroy. The idea is that it can fight, but not for any prolonged period of time, because its primary goal should be disabling and capturing. But of course, we can't leave a capital ship defenseless. So that's why the shields should be kind of best in class, and the speed should be best in class, so it can escape, and you're going to have a hard time taking down those shields. Now, the hull HP, like I said, it could be closer to like the 890 jump, even though it's a larger ship, because it shouldn't be super tough, considering that the shields are going to be so tough. It should be able to run from attackers, but it should also be able to catch people trying to flee. That is kind of the idea here, and the spider motif that we're going with. So who is this ship for? Now, first, I would say it is a base for bounty hunters on the legal side and a ship for pirates on the less legal side, right? You're pulling ships out of Quantum. On the bounty hunter side, that's you trying to catch criminals and keeping them from escaping by disabling their ships. Then you board their ships, you grab them, you put them in the brig that we could also say that this ship has, right? And maybe that's the module, you know, that we have there, right? If we do a variant, it would be for the bounty hunters, it comes with a brig, and for the pirate version, it would come with like maybe more cargo space and a second tractor beam or something like that, right? So that could be the difference there. If we do two variants, maybe one focuses more on the ability to hold people and the other focuses more on the ability to hold cargo. Or we could just include that all in one, and then you could just, you know, decide whether you want to use the brig for maybe people that are not willing to pay you the money they're supposed to if you're a pirate. Now, one of the third thing that I actually intended this for was kind of a ship where the commander plans, directs, coordinates, and controls the forces and operations. So command and control. This could be a great command and control ship, considering that is a very stealthy ship that it can disable any ships that come near it. So if you have a little spy that's coming around you and trying to send information back, that ship can be disabled. We can also, because the quantum snare both pulls you out of quantum and keeps you from leaving via quantum, you could also say that, you know, if a ship is not aware that this thing has a quantum dampener, then it is very possible that that ship gets a little too close and can't leave, right? Now, the radars and things on this would also have to be insane. So that's why we said it needs so many computers. Obviously, if it's going to do the command and control thing, it would probably be less oriented towards pulling ships out of quantum, more so just ensuring that it has that ability, especially if it's, you know, imagine you're one of the legionnaires, right? And you go a little bit too far and you're coming back and you're getting chased by a more powerful ship. And then this ship pulls that ship out of quantum, disables it. You land on this ship, the Goliath, and then you fly away while that ship is disabled. That is something I can imagine being very cool. And that's also one of the things I think would make this ship really interesting. It's not something that exists currently in the game. So at this point, let's talk about, you know, some elephants in the room, right? So if you know ships, then you know that Aegis and RSI are kind of the electronic warfare and stealth folks. Well, don't forget about the Anvil Hornet Ghost, especially the Mark I. And let me tell you why. So if you look here, right here we got features, right? The Mark 1 specifically has this. And this is what I want to explain to you. Here, profile. So, the Void Armor technology, capable of diffusing scans, it allows the ship to keep a low profile. That is Anvil specific. The Void Armor is Anvil specific. And that is the armor that this should have. Now, it should have a more advanced version. Considering this was Mark 1, we would say this had a second advanced version of Void Armor technology, which is why it performs better than the Void Armor on the Ghost Mark 1. So there is precedent for a stealth ship made by Anvil with the Hornet Ghost, right? Now, the thing here is, why would Anvil make this ship, right? Why would Anvil make this ship? So look, we can go to the Avenger Warlock. It has an EMP, that's an Aegis ship. We can go to the Saber Raven. That is a stealth ship with EMP, right? So still, Aegis. So I get that. Then we can go to the Vanguard Sentinel. That is literally electronic warfare. It's a trickster ship with EMP pulses, right? And it has a command and control interface. So EMP and command and control, right? Again, Aegis. So why would Anvil make this ship? We go to Mantis. They got the quantum enforcement device with the quantum snare, quantum dampening, right? And then, of course, they have the Polaris, which is the size. That's really what we would get from this. But, of course, we would have a brig. We would have a medical bay on board. It would have pretty much all of this stuff. It would hold a little bit more cargo than this one. But, yeah, that's pretty much what it would have, because it wouldn't have all the torpedo bays there. Why Anvil? Well, Anvil needs an answer to these things, and why not do it with one ship? We need Anvil to kill kind of two birds with one stone here. If Anvil can say, well, we don't have a capital ship, we need a capital ship. Here's our capital ship. It can do some of the things that some of our ships cannot do. It can be stealthy. One of our ships can do that, but not only is it stealthy, it can do electronic warfare, and of course, it has a quantum snare. Like I said, to balance this out, we're going to have to make sure that the guns are meant for disabling or something like that. So yes, because this ship would be a pain for anybody who comes near it, right? But also the price is something that generally should keep the numbers down as well, except for, again, those early adopters. So this shouldn't be a ship that is very easy to purchase. And also, I do think in the future, we're going to need something that can block you from being pulled out of quantum without, maybe it's like a mini game of some sort where your ship is currently about to be pulled out of quantum. You have 10 seconds to respond, and maybe if you press the correct sequence of buttons, you fail to be pulled out of quantum, right? So we do need some defenses to being pulled out of quantum in order to make sure that this is something that isn't overused and becomes something that just makes people upset. Another thing you might be thinking is it's stealth and electronic warfare, because stealth and electronic warfare generally don't go together, because electronic warfare ships generally light up like a Christmas tree, whereas stealth ships generally do not. This is why I said it has the Void Armor, and it has, so the Void Armor gives the stealth reduction, and it comes with stealth parts, right? We currently do not have stealth capital parts. So this would be a reason to create the stealth class of capital parts. And of course, we know most of the parts in capital ships are bespoke, because it's a capital ship, right? You can't necessarily take these parts out and swap them with another. So it can have bespoke parts to this ship that are meant to work with the Void Armor to keep its signature lower than another ship would if it was an electronic warfare ship. So I think that's what would make it unique. Why not Drake? Some people might ask, because I mentioned bounty hunters and pirates, right? Well, like I said, two birds with one stone, right? Maybe Anvil, Anvil gets a lot of the military contracts, right? And they're like, hey, we need to reach out, and we need to, especially with the Hornet series, right? They just got done doing their Mark IIs, so they are fully, they're in their fat cat era where they have so much money that they can start to, do some kind of outlandish things, right? So it makes sense for them to build something like this and start to try to pull over some of that Drake crowd who are like, well, I'm a pirate, I want to do pirate things, and you guys don't make ships for pirates. Well, how about this, right? A ship where you can pull people out of quantum, you can disable them and rob them blind, right? And of course, they can market it as though it's for police. This is a police ship, ladies and gentlemen. This is for police to catch the criminals, right? And then, of course, they can go behind the scenes and sell the shady ship to shady people. And then they can also, like I said, they can market it as a command and control ship, maybe with either a variant that is more strategically centered, or it could just be that you add things into this ship that just make it a great command and control ship, right? I also see this as like another version or another variant maybe is a smuggling ship. So consider that this is going to be the largest stealth ship that you could purchase, and its ability to disable ships that happen to find it, right? Imagine you're found by a Cutlass Blue, right? And the Cutlass Blue is like, oh, I found you. I can't really take you out myself, but I'm going to report back. And then all of a sudden they're disabled and you're gone, right? So it keeps them from being able to communicate that they found you or whatever. And because you're disabling the ship, they don't get to report to a comm array or anything like that. So it's a very unique ship, I think. And here is the part where I want to show you some pictures of what we think this could look like. This is the first idea that we had. So I actually, this is a great reason to come and watch us live when we're streaming, because these were actually some of the community picks, not just my picks, from, ships that they suggested this ship could look like. So we're going to go here from kind of like, we're going towards the one we like the most at the end. So this one, I think, is kind of unique, as in it kind of has that bifurcated look here. We have, it's not as 3D modeled as I would like, but I think this one came from Eve, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not exactly sure where all of these came from, so excuse me if I get that wrong. Don't kill me in the comments if I get it wrong, but feel free to name where these ships came from if you know where they came from in the comments. And don't forget that, these videos are meant for the comments. Like the key part here is that you can give your ideas in the comments, and hopefully those things are something that are picked up by CIG. And then we'll of course revisit this and see what's possible in the future, and maybe include some of the commentary from the comments. We'll screenshot some of those and pop those up and say, yes, this is a great idea, or here's why I don't think that'll work, etc. Right? So leaving comments on this one is a big one. Share it to people who you think might be interested, and we could potentially, hopefully, we could work with somebody like Grim or something, somebody from Star Jump or anything like that. So it would be really cool to get some people to model these out, as long as they are capable and are willing and they can get the rights to do so. Like, we don't want to break any laws here, right? But I like this idea. I think the only thing is it doesn't scream stealth to me, and that's kind of the only thing I think that it's missing. It's just a cool idea, I think. All right, here is our second idea. Now, this is an extremely cool idea. The only thing is, I don't know that this looks like an Anvil ship. That's the only thing. This looks more like an alien fighter of some sort, maybe like an alien capital, but I really like it. And one of the cool things, if you look at the triangular shape, it kind of screams Gattac, right? So this could be the Gattac capital. The weird design. Here's an actual version of it that's created. So it's got a kind of weird design. So I don't think this is really an Anvil ship, but the design is so cool that we might actually come back to this when we do the Gattac capital. We'll see. We haven't done that yet. But yeah, this is a really cool design. I just don't think that it's Anvil enough, even though I love the design. So now we're getting into some more realistic designs, right? So this is a more realistic design for this type of ship, but you can already see kind of the issue with it being this shape, because this kind of looks like the Javelin, right? Now, it's not to say that Javelin is the only ship that can have that kind of front piece, here, where, you can see the javelin kind of fitting in a little bit. And then, of course, the back here where all the thrusters and everything would be. That's not to say that Javelin has a hold on that and they're the only people that can make something like that. It's just to say it would kind of be a little bit too similar, but the idea would be that this would be kind of a thinner Javelin. Like, it wouldn't be as wide as a Javelin. It would be, of course, it would be black instead of that what is it, silver, metallic or white color of the Javelin. And also, of course, it wouldn't have the same capabilities as a Javelin. So it's still a design that you could start here and then, of course, make it a little bit more unique. But yeah, I could see this kind of being, you know, a starting point for it. I just don't see this as being a kind of final design. So let's move into some more what I would think would be more final designs. This is more realistic. This looks like something CIG could actually design. I mean, all of these things CIG could design. It just seems like it would fit more of the way that CIG designs. The only difference here, obviously, being that it has those massive guns on the sides. Now, maybe we do say because it you know, it has massive guns on the side. Those are, you know, where we put the size 7. Maybe we only put one on each side and we have, instead of having one dual size 7 bespoke distortion repeater, we have 2, and we have one in a turret on the right and one in a turret on the left. And maybe they're locked forward so that the pilot can control them at a certain point. Whatever, it doesn't need to be a gunship, but this design is where we're really taking the umbrance from. However, we saw this one, we thought it was possible for them to fit it in this, but we thought this was a little bit too boring. It's a nice design, don't get me wrong. It's just a little bit too boring for the type of ship that we want this to be. This ship needs to catch people's eyes. So that's why we got to this one. This is by far my favorite design for the ship that we're talking about. Now, this was made by X4 Foundation, so go check those guys out if you want to go look them up. They have a lot of different cool spaceship designs. But the key here is this ring that's in the middle here. If you look at the ring, right, the ring is kind of the thing that would be the biggest part of this, right? So it could be a dual ring, where a dual purpose ring, where the ring itself is both the quantum dampener or the quantum snare and the EMP, right? That ring could be where all of that electronic housing is, right, to do those things, right? And you could also say, we said it should have a hangar, right? And so if you look back here, it's like they already thought about this ship. It's like they already thought about this ship for us, right? And the hangar would be right back here. You can have the command and control deck, which of course would be shielded from all of the EMP and everything, specifically shielded. The whole ship would have to have specific shielding so it didn't, you know, make itself disabled or whatever. And then of course you can have all of the amenities and everything else along these two sides here. And then of course, the only thing that's missing from here is the weapons. So you would have to, you know, figure out where the weapons are. But I love this design. It is super unique. You know, that circular space in the middle adds to the idea that this is definitely an EMP ship. It makes it to where everybody looks at it and they're like, that ship definitely has an EMP. That ship definitely has a quantum snare. Like, and they're like, we know exactly what we're looking at when we look at this ship. I also like this would be kind of a change in design for CIG, just having the one massive thruster on the back. Now, obviously, you would need some maneuvering thrusters or retro thrusters around. So I get that, you know, it wouldn't be the only thruster on it, but I love that idea that it just has this one massive thruster in the back that powers everything forward, right? And again, the shields on this would have to be pretty crazy. So we could say that maybe these teeth sticking out here, they add to some level of deflection or something for the shields or something like that. But once those shields are broken through, this thing needs to be made of paper. For balancing sake, I do think that would be really cool. So that's kind of what I have, right? You know, a stealth ship that is also an electronic warfare ship that has a quantum snare, that has again, any of these things can be taken away if it seems a little bit too powerful. So a quantum snare, an EMP, and a quantum dampener with some command and control stuff that can happen along the lines here. And of course, space for 2 Legionnaires to be in with that size 7 bespoke dual weapon that can only have a distortion weapon attached to it, right? So it should be able to defend itself, but mostly it should be running away if it's in a fight with something that can destroy it. And that's kind of the idea. It should be able to disable ships, send ships out to, take those ships over, take their plunder, etc., right? And you can imagine that here in the front here is maybe where cargo area is cuts off from here to here. It's all cargo. Maybe you have the crew quarters and all the crew amenities on this side, and some more of the engineering stuff. And then you have over here, you might have like the cargo area, and then you have some more command and control stuff here. So yeah, whatever way people want to do it, but yeah, that's kind of the idea here. So let us know what you think in the comments. Again, that's the whole point of doing this, trying to get to a point where we think that we've created something that the community would really be interested in and wanting to purchase. So let us know in the comments what you think. That is what we think. And yeah, I think that's pretty much gonna do it for us. So make sure you make sure you, of course, leave or like or dislike, either one. And make sure that you're subscribed if you're not. And that's it for this one. Shout out to the members. Thanks for spending your time with us. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.